My name is Ezra Calloway, and for the past 6 months, I've felt like a ghost haunting my own life. Not the scary kind. Mind you, the invisible, forgotten kind. You know, the one people walk past without noticing? That was me. I sat on the edge of our couch, staring at the cracked screen of my laptop as if it held some secret to fixing everything that had gone wrong. Outside, Portland was doing its usual thing. Rain drizzling down a way that made you wonder the sun even existed anymore. Our apartment smelled faintly of coffee grounds and old paint, thanks to Sarah's endless art projects scattered across every surface. She called it creative chaos. I called it overwhelming clutter. But hey, who was I to judge? At least she was creating something. Meanwhile, all I created lately was excuses. Ezra, Sarah said from behind me, her voice sharp enough to cut through my thoughts. Are you going to sit there all day again? I didn't turn around. I just sighed, running a hand through my too long hair. What do you want me to do, Sarah? Wave a magic wand and get my job back? She didn't answer right away, but I could feel her frustration radiating off her like heat from pavement in July. It wasn't fair, really. None of this was fair, to either of us. But here we were, stuck in this limbo where neither of us knew how to move forward. I used to think love was enough. Love would carry us through anything, no matter how hard things got. Turns out, love doesn't pay rent or keep dreams alive when they start to fade. That night, after another silent dinner, Sarah disappeared into her studio, a tiny converted closet where she painted late into the night. I stayed on the couch, scrolling aimlessly through job postings I had zero intention of applying to. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. My old life as a software engineer felt like someone else's story, and I hadn't found mine yet. You're not even trying, Sarah said suddenly, appearing in the doorway with a brush still in her hand. Her green eyes flashed with anger, or maybe sadness. Sometimes it was hard to tell with her. I am trying. I shot back, though even I didn't believe it. But it's not like opportunities are lining up at my door. No, they're not, she snapped. Because you're sitting here feeling sorry for yourself instead of doing something about it. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Maybe because they were true. Or maybe because I was tired of being the bad guy in her narrative, the one holding her back from greatness. Whatever it was, I couldn't look at her anymore. So I turned back to my laptop, pretending to focus on something important. When she slammed the door to her studio shut, I flinched, but I didn't say anything. What was there left to say? It's funny how quickly you can go from we to me. One moment, you're planning a future together, and the next, you're wondering if you ever really knew each other at all. The fight lingered between us like smoke after a fire. Thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. By morning, neither of us had apologized. Instead, Sarah grabbed her coat and announced she was heading to an art gallery opening downtown. Normally, she'd ask me to come along, but not this time. This time, she didn't even glance my way before walking out the door. Alone in the apartment, I tried to distract myself by tinkering with code, an old habit I'd picked up during college. Back then, programming had been my escape, my way of making sense of the world. Now, it just reminded me of everything I'd lost. Every line of code felt like a reminder that I wasn't good enough. Not for Sarah, not for anyone. Hours later, Sarah came home smelling like wine and disappointment. She flopped onto the couch beside me, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought she might apologize, might admit that things weren't entirely my fault. Instead, she said, "I hate this place." "What?" I asked, stunned. "The city, this apartment, this life," she clarified, gesturing wildly. "We're stuck, Ezra. Don't you see that? We're drowning here." Her words stung worse than any insult she'd thrown at me before, because deep down I knew she was right. But hearing her say it aloud made it real in a way I couldn't ignore. Sarah always said she hated lies, but it turns out secrets are just as destructive. A few days after her outburst, I stumbled upon something that stopped me cold. While tidying up the kitchen, a rare feat for me, I noticed an envelope sticking out from under a pile of mail. Curiosity got the better of me, so I opened it. Inside was a letter congratulating Sarah on her acceptance into a prestigious design program in New York City. My stomach dropped. NYC? She hadn't mentioned anything about moving. Hell, she hadn't even hinted at applying anywhere outside Portland. My hands trembled as I stared at the crisp paper, each word confirming what I feared most. She was planning to leave me behind. When Sarah walked in moments later, I confronted her immediately. Care to explain this? I demanded, shoving the letter toward her. Her face went pale, then flushed red. You weren't supposed to find that, she muttered, avoiding my gaze. So it's true? You're leaving? My voice cracked, betraying a lump in my throat. It's not about leaving you, she insisted, though her tone lacked conviction. It's about chasing my dreams, Ezra. Something you clearly don't understand. Her words cut deeper than any knife ever could. Sometimes, love isn't enough to hold two broken people together. Sometimes, it just breaks them further. The argument that followed was the worst we'd ever had. Voices rose, tears fell, and accusations flew like daggers. Sarah accused me of giving up on life, of dragging her down with my failures. I accused her of being selfish, of abandoning me when I needed her most. By the end of it, we were both exhausted, drained of anything resembling hope. I can't keep living like this, Sarah whispered finally, her voice trembling. I need more than this. Ezra, more than us. And just like that, she packed a suitcase and walked out the door. No dramatic goodbye, no final hug, just the sound of her footsteps fading away until silence swallowed the apartment whole. I collapsed on the floor, clutching the letter she left behind, a hastily scribbled note apologizing for hurting me, but insisting she had no choice. As I read it over and over, I realized something painful but undeniable. She was right. I had been failing, not just her, but myself too. When you hit rock bottom, sometimes the only way to go is up, but climbing out of that hole? That's easier said than done. For days after Sarah left, I barely moved from the couch. The apartment felt cavernous without her. Every creak of the floorboards, every drip of the faucet echoed like a reminder of what I'd lost. I stopped answering calls from friends and ignored texts asking if I was okay. Honestly, I didn't know how to respond. No, I'm not okay seemed too pathetic, and lying felt worse. Then, one rainy afternoon, there was a knock at the door. At first, I ignored it, assuming it was just another delivery or a neighbor dropping off junk mail. But the knocking persisted, louder this time. Reluctantly, I dragged myself off the couch and opened the door to find Juno Hartley, an old friend from college, standing there with 2 steaming cups of coffee in hand. You look like hell, she said bluntly, pushing past me into the apartment. Thanks, I muttered, closing the door behind her. Juno wasn't one for small talk. She set the coffees on the counter and turned to face me, arms crossed. Listen, Ezra, I get that you're going through some crap right now, but sitting here feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to fix anything. Her bluntness caught me off guard. No pity, no sugarcoating, just straight-up honesty. For the first time in weeks, I actually laughed. I don't even know where to start, I admitted, sinking back onto the couch. Well, lucky for you, I do, Juno replied, handing me one of the coffees. Come work at my co-working space tomorrow. It'll get you out of this dump, and who knows, maybe you'll meet someone who can help you figure things out. I hesitated. The thought of leaving the apartment, of facing people, felt overwhelming. But something about Juno's confidence made me nod. Fine, I said, but if this turns out to be a disaster, I'm blaming you. She grinned. Deal. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to remind you that you're not as broken as you think. The next morning, I forced myself to shower, shave, and put on clothes that didn't smell like despair. Walking into Juno's co-working space felt surreal. It was bustling with energy, filled with freelancers typing furiously on laptops, artists sketching in corners, and entrepreneurs pitching ideas over coffee. Compared to the silence of my apartment, it was almost overwhelming. Juno greeted me at the entrance, guiding me to a quiet corner desk near a window overlooking the street. This is your spot, she said. Consider it your fresh start. As I settled in, I couldn't help but notice the eclectic mix of people around me. There was Levi Kane, a charismatic entrepreneur with a buzz cut and a penchant for motivational quotes. Then there was Amara Wells, a sharp-witted journalist, always scribbling notes in a leather-bound notebook. And of course, Juno herself, who floated between desks offering advice and encouragement like some kind of productivity guru. By lunchtime, I was already feeling more alive than I had in months. That's when Levi approached me, pulling up a chair without asking. "So, you're the infamous Ezra Calloway," he said with a grin. "Infamous?" I raised an eyebrow. "Juno talks about you nonstop," he explained. "Says you're brilliant but need a kick in the pants." I chuckled nervously, unsure how to respond. Levi leaned forward, his tone turning serious. "Look, man, I'm launching this app focused on sustainability, and I could really use someone with your coding skills. Interested?" My heart skipped a beat. Was he serious? After everything that had happened, someone actually believed in me? I don't know. I stammered. It's been a while since I've worked on anything big. "That's why it's called a challenge." Levi shot back. "You in or not?" For the first time in ages, I felt a flicker of excitement. Fear doesn't disappear overnight. Sometimes you have to jump anyway and hope you'll learn to fly before you hit the ground. That night, I lay awake replaying Levi's offer in my mind. On paper, it sounded perfect, a chance to prove myself again, to rebuild my career on my own terms. But deep down, doubt gnawed at me. What if I failed? What if I let him down, just like I'd let everyone else down? The next morning, I texted Juno. "What if I screw this up?" Her response came instantly. "Then we'll figure out together. Stop overthinking and trust yourself." Her words struck a chord. Trust in myself. That was something I hadn't done in years. Maybe it was time to try again. When I told Levi I was in, his grin widened. "Knew you'd come around," he said. "Let's build something amazing." Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into the project. Working alongside Levi reignited a passion I thought I'd lost forever. For the first time in what felt like forever, I woke up excited about the day ahead. But as much as I tried to focus on the present, memories of Sarah linger in the back of my mind. Occasionally, I'd scroll through social media late at night, searching for updates on her life in NYC. Each photo of her glamorous new world reminded me of everything I'd lost and everything I was fighting to regain. Some wounds never fully heal. Sometimes they just scar over. One evening, as I was packing up my things at the co-working space, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. My stomach tightened as I stared at her name on the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore the call, but curiosity won out. "Hey," she said softly when I answered. Her voice sounded different, tired, distant. "Hey," I replied cautiously. "Everything okay?" There was a long pause before she spoke again. "Not really. Things aren't going as well as I thought they would here." I didn't say anything, unsure whether to feel sympathy or satisfaction. "It's harder than I expected," she continued. "The city, the job, everything. I thought it would fix everything, but it didn't. I finished for her." "No," she admitted quietly. "It didn't." We talked for a while longer, though neither of us mentioned the past or our relationship. When we finally hung up, I felt conflicted. Part of me wanted to reach out to offer support, to show her that I still cared. But another part of me resented her abandonment, wondering if she truly understood the damage she'd caused. Closure isn't something you find. It's something you create. After that phone call, I decided to focus on my own life instead of dwelling on Sarah's struggles. Every time thoughts of her crept into my mind, I redirected my energy toward the app. Progress was slow but steady, and soon we had a working prototype ready for testing. Juno noticed a change in me and pulled me aside one afternoon. "You seem lighter," she observed. "I guess I am," I admitted. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm actually moving forward." She smiled knowingly. "Good. Don't stop now." Despite my progress, reminders of Sarah were everywhere. One day, while browsing Instagram during a break, I stumbled across a post of hers, a selfie taken against the backdrop of Manhattan skyline. The caption read, living my best life. At first glance, it seemed perfect, but something about the forced smile in the photo made me wonder if she was faking it as much as I once had. Still, I scrolled past it without commenting. Whatever connection we'd shared was gone now, replaced by separate paths leading in opposite directions. And maybe that was for the best. Success is a funny way of sneaking up on you when you least expect it. It started with a single article. Amara Wells, the journalist who frequented Juno's co-working space, had been observing our team for weeks. She'd asked me dozens of questions about the app, my journey, and how I'd gone from unemployed to leading development on a potentially groundbreaking project. At first, I brushed it off, just another interview that would fade into obscurity. But then the article dropped, titled From Rock Bottom to Rising Star, How Ezra Calloway Rebuilt His Life. It painted me as some kind of phoenix rising from the ashes. The piece highlighted not only my technical skills, but also my resilience after losing everything. By noon, it had gone viral. My phone buzzed nonstop with notifications from friends, acquaintances, and even strangers praising my comeback story. At first, I felt proud. All those late nights, all the self-doubt. It seemed worth it now. But as the day wore on, something gnawed at me. The article oversimplified my journey, framing it as a triumphant redemption arc without acknowledging the messy, painful reality. It made me sound like I'd conquer my demons overnight, when in truth, I was still battling them daily. And then there was Sarah. Some people leave footprints on your heart that never fully fade. I should have expected it. Social media algorithms are cruel like that. They know exactly how to twist a knife. As soon as the article blew up, I saw her name pop up in my notifications. Sarah had liked the post. My stomach churned. Did she mean it as congratulations? Or was it jealousy disguised as support? Either way, seeing her name sent me spiraling back to memories I tried so hard to bury. Later that evening, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a notification. It was a text from Sarah. "Congrats on the article," she wrote. "Looks like you're doing amazing." Her words were simple, almost casual, but they carried an undertone I couldn't quite place. Was she genuinely happy for me? Or was she regretting her decision to leave? I stared at the screen for a long time before typing out a reply. "Thanks," I wrote finally. "Hope things are going well for you, too." Her response came quickly. "Not really. Can we talk sometime?" My chest tightened. Talking meant reopening old wounds, confronting emotions I wasn't ready to face. But ignoring her felt wrong, too. "Sure," I replied reluctantly. When? Sometimes, closure isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about accepting that it can't be fixed. We agreed to meet at a cafe near Pike Place Market, a neutral location far enough from both our worlds to feel safe. When I walked in, I spotted her immediately. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, her style more polished, but her eyes still held that same vulnerability I'd fallen in love with years ago. "Hey," she said softly as I approached. "Hey," I echoed, sliding into the seat across from her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The awkwardness hung heavy between us, a reminder of everything unsaid. Finally, she broke the silence. "I read the article," she began. "It sounds like you're thriving. I guess you could say that." I replied cautiously. "What about you? How's NYC treating you?" She hesitated, fiddling with the sleeve of her sweater. "It's complicated. Work's tough and the city's exhausting. I thought moving would solve everything, but..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "But it didn't," I finished for her. "No," she admitted quietly. "It didn't." The conversation shifted between polite small talk and raw honesty. She confessed feeling lost, overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed in such a competitive environment. I listened intently, tore between empathy and lingering resentment. "You left because you thought I was holding you back," I said finally. "But did you ever stop to think maybe you were running away from yourself?" Her eyes widened, stung by the accusation. "That's not fair, Ezra. Isn't it?" I countered. "You accuse me of giving up, but weren't you doing the same thing in your own way?" She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. For the first time, I realized she wasn't just struggling with external challenges. She was grappling with the same insecurities that had plagued her since we'd met. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It reshapes it. After our meeting, I couldn't shake the image of Sarah sitting across from me, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Part of me wanted to reach out to offer comfort and reassurance. But another part, the part that still carried the weight of her abandonment, resisted. Juno noticed my distraction during one of our brainstorming sessions. "You okay?" she asked, leaning against my desk. "Yeah, I lied. Just thinking." "About Sarah?" she guessed, raising an eyebrow. "How do you always know these things?" I muttered, half joking. "Because I pay attention," she replied simply. "Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you keep carrying around all this baggage, it's going to weigh you down eventually." Her words stuck with me. Baggage? That's exactly what this felt like. Every memory, every unresolved emotion, felt like a brick in a backpack I hadn't realized I was still carrying. That night, I called Sarah again. "Can we meet tomorrow?" I asked. "There's something I need to say." Closure is messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes it happens in front of everyone. Levi insisted on throwing a launch party for the app, complete with champagne, hors d'oeuvres, and networking opportunities galore. Normally, I would have dreaded such an event, but tonight I felt oddly confident. Maybe it was the progress we'd made, or maybe it was knowing I'd finally confront Sarah once and for all. She showed up uninvited, an unexpected twist I hadn't anticipated. Dressed in a sleek black dress, she moved through the crowd like a ghost, blending and yet standing out all at once. "Ezra," she said when she found me, her voice barely audible over the hum of conversation. "Sarah," I replied, my tone guarded. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to see it for myself," she admitted. "Your success, your new life." Before I could respond, she continued, her voice rising slightly. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to see you thriving while I'm still struggling? To know I gave up on us just as you were starting to pull yourself together?" Her words drew stares from nearby guests, but I didn't care. "That's not my fault," I shot back. "You made your choice, Sarah. Don't blame me for finding happiness after you walked away." Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I hurt you. But don't act like you're the only one who suffered." The room fell silent as we faced each other, two broken people trying and failing to reconcile the past. Sometimes letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself. The confrontation ended as abruptly as it began. Sarah turned and walked out, leaving me standing alone amidst whispers and curious glances. For a moment, I considered chasing after her, but something stopped me. Instead, I returned to the party, forcing a smile and pretending nothing had happened. Inside, though, I felt lighter, as if a weight I'd been carrying for months had finally lifted. Later that night, Juno found me on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. "You handle that well," she said, joining me. "I don't know about that," I admitted, "but I think I'm done holding on to her. On to us." She nodded approvingly. "Good. Now focus on what's ahead, not behind." As I gazed at the skyline, I realized she was right. Whatever connection I'd shared with Sarah was over. It was time to build something new, something entirely my own. Sometimes, the best way to heal is to pour your energy into something bigger than yourself. In the days following the launch party, I threw myself into work with renewed determination. The app was gaining traction faster than we'd anticipated, and Levi's optimism became infectious. Every bug fix, every feature update felt like another step toward proving, to myself more than anyone else, that I was capable of greatness. But it wasn't just about the app anymore. Inspired by Juno's mentorship philosophy, I started brainstorming ways to give back to the community that had helped me rebuild my life. What if we could create a program to teach coding skills to people struggling to find their footing? It sounded ambitious, but Levi loved the idea. "You're onto something here," he said during one of our late-night brainstorming sessions. "Let's call it Code Forward, helping others rise while we climb." The name stuck, and soon we were drafting plans for workshops, partnerships with local nonprofits, and even scholarship opportunities. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of something meaningful, not just professionally, but personally. Still, there were moments when Sarah crept into my thoughts. Her apology at the party lingered in my mind, a reminder of how unresolved emotions can linger long after a relationship ends. I wondered if she regretted leaving as much as she claimed, or if she simply envied my success. Either way, I refused to let her shadow overshadow my progress. Sometimes, the past comes knocking when you least expect it, and forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. A month later, I received an email from Sarah. It was short and to the point. Ezra, I'm back in Portland temporarily. Can we meet? There are things I need to say. Sarah, my stomach churned as I read her words. Back in Portland? Temporarily? Part of me wanted to ignore the message altogether, to pretend she didn't exist. But curiosity and maybe a shred of lingering attachment won out. We met at the same cafe where we'd last spoken. This time, though, she looked different. Gone was the polished veneer of NYC sophistication. Instead, she wore jeans and a hoodie, her hair pulled back into a messy bun. She looked human, vulnerable. "Hey," she said softly as I sat down. "Hey," I replied, studying her face for clues about why she returned. "I lost my job," she admitted without preamble. "Got laid off last week. Figure it was time to come home and regroup." Her confession hit me harder than I expected, not because I took pleasure in her misfortune, but because it reminded me of how cyclical failure can feel. "I'm sorry," I said finally, "and I meant it." "Thanks," she murmured. "I guess karma caught up with me, huh?" Her attempt at humor fell flat, and we both knew it. Closure doesn't always look the way you imagine it. For the next hour, Sarah and I talked openly in a way we hadn't since before she left. She confessed feeling trapped in NYC, overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed in an industry that chewed people up and spit them out. "I thought moving would fix everything," she admitted, "but all it did was magnify my insecurities. I kept comparing myself to everyone around me, artists who were farther along, designers who seemed happier. Meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking about you, about us." Her words caught me off guard. "Why now?" I asked, "Why bring this up after everything?" "Because I needed to be honest with myself and with you," she replied. "Leaving was the hardest decision I ever made, Ezra, but staying would have been worse for both of us. We were suffocating each other, even if neither of us wanted to admit it." She paused, searching my face for a reaction. "But seeing you succeed, it made me realize something. You didn't need me to hold you back anymore. And honestly, I don't think I needed you either." Her honesty stung, but it also brought clarity. She was right. We'd been holding on to a version of each other that no longer existed. Letting go wasn't just about forgiving her for leaving. It was about accepting that we both changed in ways that couldn't be undone. Sometimes, happiness isn't about finding someone. It's about finding yourself. In the weeks that followed, Sarah began piecing her life back together. Instead of chasing fame or validation, she started teaching art classes at a local community center. Watching kids light up as they created their own masterpieces gave her a sense of purpose she'd never found in galleries or high-profile clients. Meanwhile, Code Forward launched its first workshop series, drawing participants from all walks of life. Seeing the impact we were making filled me with a sense of fulfillment I'd never experienced in my old corporate job. Each success story, from a single mom learning Python to a retired veteran discovering a passion for web design, reminded me why I'd chosen this path. Juno noticed a change in me too. One afternoon, as we reviewed feedback from our latest workshop, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. "You seem lighter," she observed. "I feel it," I admitted. "For the first time in forever, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Her expression softened. "Good. You deserve it. The future isn't written in stone. It's shaped by the choices we make today." As spring turned to summer, Portland came alive with festivals, outdoor markets, and endless sunshine. I spent most weekends exploring the city, rediscovering corners I'd overlooked during my darker days. Occasionally, I ran into Sarah at these events. Once, We even shared coffee after bumping into each other at a farmer's market. These encounters weren't awkward or painful. They were peaceful. Conversations flowed naturally, free of resentment or regret. We weren't trying to rekindle anything. We were simply acknowledging that we'd grown separately yet parallel to each other. One evening, as I stood on a hill overlooking the city, I realized something profound. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Sarah, not at myself, not at the world. Losing her had hurt more than I cared to admit, but it had also forced me to confront part of myself I'd ignored for years. And now I was building a life I could be proud of, not for anyone else, but for me. Life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. Months later, I attended a charity gala hosted by Levi's Foundation. The event was packed with familiar faces, entrepreneurs, artists, and community leaders who'd supported Code Forward since its inception. As I mingled among the crowd, I spotted Sarah across the room. She looked radiant, dressed in a flowing emerald gown that matched her eyes. Beside her stood a man I didn't recognize, a tall, broad-shouldered figure with kind eyes and an easy smile. They looked happy, comfortable in each other's company. When she noticed me watching, she excused herself and approached me. "Hi, stranger," she said warmly. "Hey," I replied, returning her smile. "You look great." "So do you," she countered. "Heard Code Forward is changing lives. Proud of you, Ezra." "Thanks," I said. "And congrats on the teaching gig. Sounds like you're making waves, too." We chatted briefly, catching up on surface-level details before she gestured toward the man waiting patiently nearby. "This is Daniel," she introduced. "We met through one of my classes." "Nice to meet you," Daniel said, extending his hand. "You too," I replied, meaning it. As they walked away, I couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia. Not for Sarah, but for the chapter of my life she represented. That part of me was gone now, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely more hopeful. Love doesn't always come knocking when you're looking for it. Later that night, as the gala wound down, Juno found me lingering near the bar. "You okay?" she asked, her tone laced with concern. "Yeah," I replied. "Just reflecting, I guess." She studied me for a moment before speaking. "You know, I've been meaning to tell you something." "What's that?" "That night you called me asking for advice about Sarah," she hesitated, then sighed. I lied. Confused, I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" "I told you I'd pay attention to you," she admitted. "But the truth is, I've always paid attention to you, Ezra, even before all this happened. I just didn't want to complicate things while you were healing." Her confession stunned me. All those months of friendship, support, and subtle encouragement suddenly clicked into place. "Juno," I began, unsure what to say. "You don't have to say anything," she interrupted gently. "I just want to be honest. Whatever happens next is up to you. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin when you least expect them." Standing there under the soft glow of string lights, I realized something important. Love doesn't follow timelines or scripts. It shows up when you're ready, not necessarily when you're looking for it. Juno's vulnerability reminded me of how far I'd come, not just professionally, but emotionally. I wasn't the same person who'd sat on that couch 6 months ago, paralyzed by self-doubt and regret. I was someone new, someone better. "Thank you," I said finally, meeting her gaze, "for everything." Her smile lit up the room. "Anytime." As we walked out of gala together, the cool night air wrapping around us like a promise, I felt a spark of excitement I hadn't felt in years. Whatever lay ahead, whether it involved Juno or simply continued growth, I was ready, because for the first time in a long time, I believed in myself.